Hey, it's Jordan here, a mentor with Grades of Green, and I'm here to welcome you to Phase 3 of the WASTE campaign. In this phase, there are two things to do. One, meet with your Grades of Green mentor to help plan your video and presentation strategy. Second, create and turn in your 1 to 3 minute campaign video, showcasing your local waste issue, your solution, and your call to action. I'm now happy to introduce Anya Raganathan, the co-founder of Bad Apple Produce.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the WASTE campaign webinar number 3. We are so lucky to have here with us today Anya Raganathan. She is the co-founder at Bad Apple Produce, and she's today's guest expert. We are really excited to be working with you guys this semester to turn your waste solution into a reality. So Anya's here to give you guys some tips about how you can turn that really passionate idea that you have about how you're going to reduce waste in your school or community, get others on board, start to implement it, and then really get momentum around what you're doing. So we're really excited to learn more about that. Awesome. So to get started, Anya, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So I'd love to learn, first of all, a little bit about like how you started to get interested in waste and passionate about waste issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I've always been really fascinated by the fact that we as a society are pretty disconnected from our food. You know, so many people will go to the grocery store once a week and you'll take an item off the shelf and you will not know anything about the complex set of steps that led to that item being grown and picked and processed, packed, and sent to the store. And it is always very interesting to me to think about sort of the mystery before the retail level, which is what we all see. I got interested in agriculture due to a couple of childhood experiences that I had. My grandfather was actually a plant scientist, and so after he retired from his job as being the president of a local college in South India, which is where my family is from, he decided to pursue his passion in retirement, which was farming. And so he owned dozens of acres of land and was farming everything from rice to mangoes to coconuts. And I would actually go to India once a year when I was a kid and see the process of producing fruits and vegetables. How, you know, for example, rice, when it's harvested, you have to separate it from the husk. And so what they do in India is that they'd put all of the rice husks out in the road and let people ride over them to separate the grain from the husk. So as I was getting older, I got more interested in the supply chain for produce in the US. And what struck me in learning more about it was that it is very different than what I saw growing up. In the US, there's so many different reasons why produce goes to waste. One of the major reasons is that supermarkets, which are the main buyers for produce, have all of these really strict appearance requirements for what they're willing to buy. And so this really results in a situation where 1 in 5 fruits and vegetables that are grown in the US do not end up getting eaten by people. And it's sort of this early experience which translated into later looking in to how the produce industry works in the US that got me really passionate about dealing with these issues in New York City. That 40% of produce that's grown in the US does not end up getting eaten for a number of different reasons, in addition to items maybe not meeting the appearance requirements. Right. The other reasons why things may go to waste are that, you know, farming is a really unpredictable industry. So a lot of times farmers, when they're thinking about all the different things that may go wrong, like weather or pests or disease, will overplant their fields. But sometimes none of these things happen, right? And you just get a massive amount of the crop, and they may not have a buyer for all of that stuff. So that excess supply is really at risk of going to waste as well. Another thing that all sorts of suppliers of produce have to deal with is storage-related issues. So, you know, most produce items have a really narrow temperature range that they need to be stored in, and if the box is being moved around between different rooms, between different physical locations, and it falls out of that temperature range, the produce can actually spoil a lot more quickly than it's supposed to, and it may spoil before it gets eaten by somebody. And then another big issue that farmers have to deal with is market-related issues. So some years there's amazing weather, and as a result of the weather being really good, there's a massive abundance of produce. during a specific season. And a kind of a general economic principle is that if there's a lot of something, then the price is going to go down because there's a lot of it and it's easy to get. Well, sometimes there are issues where the price of a produce item goes down so much that it costs the farmer more money to pick the produce, pack it, and send it to a buyer than they'd actually receive for it by selling it. And so in those situations, a farmer will literally just leave entire fields unharvested because they can't justify the cost of harvesting. So these are all sorts of reasons why items go to waste.
It sounds like there's so many systemic issues that are all along the chain from production to even consumption that are causing waste. So tell us a little bit about Bad Apple and how you guys are working to solve some of these waste issues.
Absolutely. So Bad Apple, simplest way to explain what we do, we are a produce delivery service in New York City that aims to reduce food waste and also address some of the issues of hunger that our community is dealing with. So the way that we are able to do this is that we work with all sorts of people along the supply chain for produce. We talk to them constantly to identify items that they think will be very difficult to sell. So whether that's a farmer has a massive amount of excess supply because they've had great weather during a season and they don't think that they're going to be able to sell all of it, or a wholesaler has a bunch of apples that maybe they're a bunch of different sizes in a box and they think that it's going to be difficult to find a supermarket that wants to buy it. We'll talk to all of our partners in the industry. We'll purchase the produce that's at risk of going to waste, and we put it up on our website, and then all sorts of people in New York City can go onto our website, say that they want specific items, and we'll deliver it directly to their doorsteps at a significant cost discount to what they'd be able to get in a grocery store.
That sounds like an amazing model, and you have some examples.
Absolutely. So today I brought for you guys a couple of examples of produce that would be really difficult to sell on the retail level. And looking at these items, you're probably thinking, they look perfectly normal. And I am here to say these items are perfectly normal, and they simply exemplify the fact that supermarkets have really, really, really arbitrarily strict reasons why they won't accept produce, which is resulting in lots of waste being generated. So this is a grapefruit. Look at it on the surface, it looks perfectly normal. The reason why this would be difficult to sell on the retail level is that it's actually undersized relative to a standard grocery store grapefruit. And also, I don't know, do you want me to get a little closer so you can see the skin? None of these marks on the skin actually impact the taste or the shelf life of the item. Just because it looks a little visually different than the average grocery store grapefruit, it is not very likely to be sold. It would very likely get rejected by a supermarket if one of their growers were to send it their way. So this is an orange. This is actually an item straight out of our warehouse. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this orange from a pure visual standpoint. And I can confirm, because I ate an orange almost exactly like this from our warehouse yesterday, that it is delicious and something that certainly has no issue being eaten. But the reason why a grocery store may reject this is because, somewhat like the grapefruit, there's a little bit of scarring on the peel from weather damage. Once again, this is not scarring that would impact the taste or the nutritional content or the shelf life. But in the opinion of a grocery store, the fact that there's a little bit of this brown marking makes it less appealing to a consumer, and so they would be unlikely to want to purchase this product for sale.
So just completely out of curiosity, if something is rejected by a retailer, where does it go?
So there are a bunch of different steps that result in produce getting to the grocery store. A lot of grocery stores will buy produce from wholesalers, which are basically intermediary businesses in between the grower and other end users. And so what they do is they'd say to their wholesaler that they bought the produce from, we don't want this, it's no good, and send it back on a truck to the wholesaler. Now this results in a whole bunch of issues because obviously more time is passing. And this is a product that's perishable, like eventually it'll spoil. So it will end up back at a wholesaler's warehouse, and they're stuck with a situation where they have to try to find another buyer for it. Maybe they don't have another buyer for it. And they're kind of racing against the clock to find another person that will take it.
Wow. So you guys are there to rescue it?
Exactly. So we're basically there to step in preemptively when they get items that initially into the warehouse that they think will be a tough sell for retailers, and just buy off of them right off the bat, so they are confident in knowing that these perfectly good items that grocery stores for some reason have decided that they don't want to sell will find a home.
That's such a great solution, and it's so inspiring. So right now our campaign teams are in 77 cities across the globe, 13 countries, and they've all identified an issue in their area similar to the issue that you identified of this massive food waste along the production chain. You know, some of them are working on food waste, other campaign teams I know are working on plastic pollution and other issues that they've identified. And so they've come up with a goal that they're going to implement this semester. But, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get visibility around your idea, to raise awareness, and to get other people on board. So Anya, as someone who's created your own business, do you have any tips for our students who are trying to, you know, really get momentum and get others on board on their idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say my number one piece of advice for anyone that's looking to get the word out there about a campaign or a solution that they've come up with in the waste reduction space is to be able to talk very concretely about how big of a problem that you're addressing. A lot of people may not buy into a solution because they literally do not understand how big of a problem something is. And so their thought process is, well, why should I contribute if this problem isn't even that big in the first place? So it's really up to you to come up with concrete statistics and convey the magnitude of the problem that you're addressing in terms that anybody can understand. So for example, let's say that you're dealing with plastic waste reduction in your local school system. Be able to say in very specific terms how much plastic waste is being generated. Is it enough to fill your entire school football stadium? Is it enough to span the length of your local basketball court end to end 1,000 times? The more specific you are in using concrete terms that anybody can visualize, the more likely people are to appreciate the extent of the problem and buy into your solution. So another piece of advice that I have for you guys when you're pitching your solutions to get people on board is to think about who you're talking to, who's your audience. Let's say, for example, you're pitching to your local school board. One thing that school boards are very concerned with is budgets. So, most school systems have a very finite amount of funds that they have to deal with. And so in theory, they may love the concept of your solution, but are concerned that maybe implementing it may be impossible for them because of budget-related issues. So when you're thinking about the motivations of the people that you're pitching to, make sure that you think about what they care about and be able to appeal to considerations that they may have. In the event that you're pitching to a school board, maybe before you go into the meeting, figure out ways that your solution will actually save the school board money in the long term. And that'll make buying into your solution a way more appealing situation for them. And then finally, the last thing that I want to reinforce that's important is to be able to quantify the impact that each individual contributor will have in participating in your campaign. You know, some people may not want to buy into a cause because they literally don't understand how they can make an impact. It seems like, they as one person aren't really doing anything to help the issue. But if you're able to put really concrete statistics on each individual contribution, by saying, if you buy into my campaign or participate, you will be saving X amount of resources in a week, X amount of resources in a year, and will save X amount of dollars and X amount of energy in the span of this time to this time, people will be able to visualize the impact that they can have and will be a lot more inspired to participate.
Anya, that is amazing advice, and I think that our campaign teams are really going to benefit from it. They're actually making videos of their solutions, and I think if they can incorporate exactly what you said, so measurable statistics about what the issue is, what their impact will be, and appealing to the audience that their video is meant to involve in their campaign, I think their videos are going to be super impactful. So we're excited to share them with you once they're out. So before we close off, do you have any final words of encouragement or inspiration for our teams?
Absolutely. I would say that the single most powerful words of encouragement that I can give you guys is never to underestimate the impact of what young people can do to change their local communities. I actually started my first business in the waste reduction space when I was 19. I wasn't much older than you guys. And that kind of led me to pursue waste reduction as a full-time career. So in doing this, never lose sight of your goal, and remember that you really do have the power to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Anya. And thanks to everyone for watching. We'll talk to you soon, and we're excited to see your videos. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.